Good morning for AM 1340, 99.5 FM WGRV. I'm Reid Seals, and I'm here for our monthly interview with Greene County Mayor Kevin Morrison. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Reid.
First thing, explain why the county commissioner or the county commission changed the property tax rate for the city again on Monday, and the significance of the change.
Well, Reid, the reason for the change was we met in closed session with the county attorney and was provided a couple of options, two or three options, that the county commission could weigh to potentially stave off, if you will, pending legal action by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen in the city of Greeneville. There's essentially two competing statutes in Tennessee state law. And when we passed the budget, formulated the budget, and passed the budget in June, when we leveled the tax rate, one of those statutes essentially says that we have the ability to do that as long as our residents are paying education debt service, which is debt owed on the county school system. As long as we're paying that debt with a tax levied on the citizens outside the city limits of Greeneville, then we're okay. We have an education debt service account that has approximately $1.8 million. That money was levied on the citizens outside the citizens of Greeneville, city limits of Greeneville. And we felt that because that account was there with that balance in it, as long as we paid those bonds and debts with that money, that we could also augment that with sales tax, which the statute says that we can do that. That we were in very solid legal ground. MTAS and CTAS, however, disagreed and then come to an agreement based on another Tennessee statute that said that education debt service shall have a levy. So in order to be compliant with both Tennessee statutes, we went back, the county commission reconsidered, and this was one of the options. Some of the other options were, for instance, to stand pat and prepare for any type of legal action. Another one was we could have considered any number, for instance, of remedies with the tax rate, but it was settled on a 3 cent difference in the inside rate and the outside rate. So Greene County, the commission, created a 3 cent difference on the citizens on the outside city limits of Greeneville that would be earmarked specifically to pay the education debt service. So the citizens outside the city limits of Greeneville are paying with a separate levy in compliance with the Tennessee statute that I said for education debt service, along with the monies that are in this account, as well as some monies from our portion of the sales tax, which has already been split with the city. So we feel that we're in compliance. The commission feels, our legal advisor feels that we are in compliance as much as we can be with both statutes. So that's the action that was taken, and that's the result. It results in an impact to the budget somewhere in the neighborhood of about $300,000, something like that. Which is not a great deal. Which, again, based on the options that were presented, was the option that impacted the budget the least, I suppose, in terms of having to go back and redo different things or reset different departments and that sort of stuff.
Now, despite what happened on Monday with that vote, the city still is looking to pursue legal action. What is your opinion on that? How do you feel about that?
Well, again, those were some of the discussions that we had with the commission. Some of the options that were presented in closed session, and then when we came back into open session, then it was the commissioners came to consensus on what they wanted to do. The city, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, Greene County is sued on average 2 or 3 times a week by various organizations and people. We don't like to the fact that we're sort of at loggerheads with the city fathers and the board of mayor and aldermen. They have the ability to pursue legal action. I mean, that's their prerogative. We just want to put the county, I guess, in the best legal footing in compliance with the law that we can. And our attorney, the commission, I think, is comfortable, given the action that they took to comply with both sort of competing statutes. And the board may be looking at one particular statute, the county is looking at the other. Our eyes, for instance, were sort of made aware that there's competing statutes with regard to taxation, how those funds are distributed, how school debt bond is paid. But they can still pursue legal action, really, no matter what action we took.
Why was the old Consumer Credit Union building chosen for the Election Commission office, and how will it be paid for?
Well, Reed, the simple answer right up front is that the Consumer Credit Union building, the old building, will be paid for out of funds from the general fund, the undesignated fund balance. We feel that we're in an excellent financial footing in order to do that, with, again, not a lot of impact on the budget, future operating cost, or having to issue debt or raise taxes anywhere in the near future with regard to paying for that. The CCU building was looked at a couple of times, actually. It was looked at under my predecessor when they were deciding whether or not, for instance, they were going to buy the warehouse next door to the annex. I think at that time, because the warehouse was an option next to the annex, that consideration of the CCU building then sort of became, I guess, in a second fiddle or on the back burner. I was recently approached. Well, I was approached back in February by the Election Commission, and we have known for a long time that the building that they're in is in a deteriorating state. We've done a lot of maintenance and had a lot of problems over there. It all started to sort of cascade when we had problems at the EMA office downtown at the Andrew Johnson School building with a very noxious odor that was very persistent. So we evacuated EMA and put them in the bottom floor of that building where the Red Cross had been. We actually had to ask the Red Cross, and they graciously moved their stuff to Kingsport. So we located the EMA office there. And then it became apparent from our visit, or from the visit with the election officials, that they were going to get new election equipment. We have a grant that's coming from the federal government to purchase new voting equipment, which includes paper trail collection equipment that's rather large. We have no place to store that. We would have to rent a space in order to store that equipment. And again, given the other issues, the lack of parking, the safety issues for handicapped folks needing to park, wanting to vote, the limited space on early voting, Walter State came over. Obviously, they've had a lot of frustration with people parking. Parking is a big issue. So, knowing that, we looked at the CCU building back in February and March. The price was such that I didn't even advance it to any members of the county commission, really. And we looked at other locations around town, away from the bypass. Those properties too, presented problems. Anytime that you're not building specifically for the purpose that you're looking for, you're never going to find a storybook answer. So the most recent thing came up with the CCU building about moving, and whether or not, for instance, we could reconsider that. I had originally sort of put it out of my mind. They were sort of in a desperate search for something, and we sort of sat down. I made an offer. They came back with a counter offer. I counter offered their counter offer, and we made an arrangement to sort of meet in the middle at 425. 18 out of 21 commissioners saw the need for to purchase something, the CCU building, but it was in excellent shape. I had our building inspector, an architect, our maintenance director all over the building in every crook and corner, on the roof, examining everything: water, toilets, electrical, security, ADA, bathrooms, you name it, and they looked at it. And is it perfect? No, we're going to have to do some other cosmetic things with regard to making a handicap bathroom stall, not necessarily constructing a handicap bathroom like we would in the location that we're in. But that was the decision that the commission was faced with, was whether or not to spend $75,000 to $100,000 on this location down here and possibly more, or look for an alternate location that answered a lot of other problems. And the CCU, again, although not a complete sort of storybook answer to our problems, does provide the space for elections and EMA, for storage and parking. I think the public is going to find, for instance, that it's flat, one level, easy access for the elderly and folks that have trouble getting around. Parking is going to be exceptional, and as more and more people begin the early voting process, we'll be able to vote more people. So, it was just and the deal was $425,000 for a 7,500 square foot building and 13.24 acres. That's a pretty good deal.
Can you explain the resolution that allows 911 to issue bonds, notes, and debt obligation?
The county commission authorized 911 to be able to issue bonds and debt obligation. Essentially, what the 911 board, the commission, did was to seek a loan from the USDA to purchase a controller. And essentially, we've got to give them, as the county government, as the commission, the authorization to do so. And so the commission did vote to do that. The county, according to our attorney, is under no legal obligation for the taxpayers to pay that back. Essentially, if 911 defaulted, it would be like repossession of the equipment. So, that's not going to happen, I don't believe. But by virtue of getting that, or allowing that debt obligation to go forward, 911 was able to get a lower rate on the money that they needed to pay for this, and actually save somewhere in the tune of $7,000 to $9,000 a year over the course of that loan, which is 5 years, I believe.
Well, I want to thank Greene County Mayor Kevin Morrison for joining us, and he will be back next month after the next commission meeting for our monthly interview. I'm Reid Seals for AM 1340 and 99.5 FM WGRV.